Welcome to the WAVIT podcast recap, where we discuss the latest WAVIT podcast.
We're here to offer women in AV and IT valuable resources for your professional development. Hi, I'm Carol Feely-Vario, and I'm a founding member of WAVIT. I'm a project management professional with 20 years experience in the construction and AV industries.
Hi, I'm Caroline Dunn, Vice President of Marketing at Alesia. In this episode, we are going to recap episode 2 with hosts Chrissy, Sarah, and Lex Evans.
The guest on episode 2 was Alicia Henley, Business Development Manager at Sennheiser, journalist and content creator.
In episode 2, Lex and Chrissy interviewed Alicia about her career in the AV industry and building community while being her authentic self. Now, it didn't start out that way. That was what was interesting about the article, about the podcast. Alicia said she started off by creating this perception of herself as a white man. To me, this sounded totally ridiculous and completely relatable all at the same time. Hey, Carol, what were your feelings about this episode?
That struck me as so relatable as dressing and emulating white men, because early in your career, who do you have to base off of, especially in such a male-dominated industry as AV? You're surrounded by white men. So as you know, we're just little animals here, right? And when you're young in your career, you could be young, right? But you could be younger in your career. You're going to emulate those around you. You don't have that past experience to really understand your sense of self. I think that's one of the reasons why WAVIT needs to exist, right?
If you're not a member, join WAVIT.
Right. Well, join WAVIT. But it's extremely important to have a place where women can be their true selves, right? Where we can gather together and drop those patriarchal influences where we can, right? You know, we all of a sudden, you know, you might show up and everyone is wearing polo shirts and khakis. And before you know it, you're wearing polo shirts and khakis. You know, it might creep in slowly, right? And it might be a business requirement that you do so, but you'll if you look for them, you'll see those things come in, and the more you're aware of it, I think the less likely you are to do it. That's my hate on polo shirts, though.
We all have our own fashion choices. And so they spend a lot of time talking about defining their authentic self. But I wanted to take a step back and define your authentic self. So she talked about dressing, acting like a white man. Okay. And I think it's on a range. Okay. So, you know, we were too far over on the range when we were dressing and acting like white men. Okay. And we've all done it, or you and me, we're admitting to doing it in this podcast. But then on the other hand, if your natural authentic self is a swimsuit and bare feet, I think we kind of need to find some balance here. Because we also need to think, I'm here for a job, I'm here to get paid, and I need to adhere to some professional and social norms. And if your authentic self is that more casual person, Carol, what would you do?
I would find a career that accepts the casual person. And that's what I did. Right? One of the reasons I got into construction was I had 14 years of Catholic school. Right? I never, ever want to see another polyester pleated skirt in my life. I'm not a big dress wearer for that reason. Right? I never wanted to wear dresses because I was forced to wear one every day for all of my school career. And then I went to art school for college, right? And I could finally be more myself. And I wore paint covered jeans and found an industry where dressing relaxed was the norm. And I think it's funny too. Actually, I look at my dad. My dad was exactly the same way. He was a construction surveyor, and he went to places he could wear work pants. You know, he was very happy to never wear a suit in his life. He wore suits very well. He looked good in them, but that was not his main goal. And he found a career that embraced a more casual lifestyle. And I think we've all been in places.
If that's you.
That's me.
That's your authentic self. Embrace your authentic self.
And I've had office jobs where I've had to wear office clothes, and it ruined my wardrobe completely as far as I'm concerned.
But also beyond dressing, you know, let's talk about, you know, finding your way in the AV IT industry. You know, there's so many different jobs within that industry. You could be very technical. You could be a project manager, Carol.
Yeah.
Yes, you could be an engineer. So I studied to be an engineer. But my authentic self was I wanted to do marketing. And so I transitioned my career, pivoted my career into marketing. That was more my authentic self, was the art and combining that art and science. And that's why I went into marketing. So I think I think there's some trial and error in that. They also talked about that in the podcast. Was there's a little bit of there's a little bit of experimentation because you don't know who you are when you're early in your career. So how do you? I guess our next question is, how do you find your authentic self when you are early in your career? How do you know who your authentic self is? And so one of the things that they recommended in the podcast was something called an insight test. It's this color block thing. And so while I respect them all, and I've taken a million of these personality tests, and I do believe there is value in taking personality tests, I kind of have mixed feelings about personality tests just in general, not specific to insight tests. And my concern is that it puts you in a box and you think, oh, okay, instead of doing the work, I'm just going to take this personality test. And after 5 minutes, it's going to know everything about me. It's going to tell me everything, and I don't have to do any work.
I think you need to take these all very carefully. We like the result, right? As humans, we like to take the test. We answer the questions and we get the result. It's not about the result. It's about reading the questions. It's the self-assessment part of it that's really going to help you understand who you are. I kind of wish we could do these tests without the results. I'm a PMP, a professional project manager, and it's or project management professional, excuse me. And it's one of the things that they do every year is a self-assessment for soft skills, or they brand it as power skills, but it's not graded. It's just a list of questions that you should think about. And I think those questions and asking yourself the questions is the important part, right? Not the result that you get. It's asking the questions.
So let me give you a specific example of why I have mixed feelings about personality tests. Somebody told me to mentor somebody. I was given a mentee recently, not through WAVIT, just completely, through my professional network. And I was happy, I was excited to mentor this person. And she took one of these personality tests or one of these like career tests. And as she was waiting for the results to come back, she made an appointment with me and we had a sit down. And in the meeting I had with her, she talked about how much she loved technology and she was interested in getting into technology. Well, right after our meeting, she got back the results of her test, and the test, I don't even know the name of the test, so not bad mouthing the test. It told her that technology was not going to be her thing. And she just gave up at that point. She just decided, oh, I'm not going to be good at it. I'm not going to do it. So, all right. And that was the end of my mentoring relationship. She didn't want to talk to me, or she didn't want to work through it with me or anything. That was the end. And I'm still really sad about that because I was really looking forward to that, or having that mentor-mentee relationship. Oh, and if you're interested in getting a mentor or mentee, this is a plug for WAVIT is starting a mentoring program. So you should definitely stay tuned for that. All right, but back to what we really need to be doing. We love plugging WAVIT. We just can't help ourselves. But back to asking ourselves questions. And I think you have to do the work. I think you can't expect a personality test to know what you are like after 15 to 20 minutes. I think you need to look upon yourself. I think, us being a little bit later in our careers, we've had that experimentation. We kind of understand that a little bit better. But what can you do? I think you've got to do the work. So, Carol, do you have any resource recommendations for somebody who wants to understand themselves or understand their authentic selves a little bit better?
Absolutely. There's a book from Tammy Sallenberger called The One Inside. And it's a 30-day program of asking yourself questions. And it just, every day is just a single word. You think about what that word means to you and how that applies to you. And then at the end, you can sort of put your assessment together, right? Again, this is all very internal reflection. This isn't putting this into a machine and the bot tells you what box to jump into, right? Like there's so many things about us that are different. There's so many things about us, cultural differences, social differences, geographical differences that make us who we are. And like, it's so disappointing to me that person just quit because some personality test told her it wasn't going to be good for her, right? Maybe it would have, who knows? And what a missed opportunity that is, right? And again, right, she had the choice to do that, but I think having a group of women around where you can sort of discuss that with too, who might have similar experiences or who have more experiences that you can learn from, right? Again, plugging WAVIT here, but this is
Yes.
this is
But that's what we are here for.
Right. That's what these professional development groups are for. But the one inside is an excellent resource for doing some internal deep digging, and not just, give me the answer, right? Because it's about the question. It's not about the answer. And there's a second book called Autism in Heels, The Untold Story of a Female Life on the Spectrum from Jennifer Cook O'Toole. Her story is really interesting. She, grew up a pretty isolated kid and socially isolated, and understanding her autism as an adult and being later diagnosed kind of explained a lot of her childhood. It's a very interesting story if you or anyone in your family has been diagnosed or being assessed for autism. And it might also help you understand maybe some of your coworkers and the rest of the world a little bit, because there definitely are plenty of neurodivergent folks in the AV industry. I will tout myself as one of them. But there's a quote in it that stood out to me. I actually was driving home from the library and I had to stop my car so I could pause it so I didn't lose the quote in the audiobook. But the quote is, "There are a few things as tragic as when we tactily agree to the notion that our unchanged truth is somehow invalid, less than broken, wrong. That pretending is necessary for professional opportunity or personal acceptance. I've done it a million times in ways large and small, and I can tell you this, trying to hide in plain sight is frustrating, disorienting, isolating, an exhausting game of short-term gains in exchange for a very certain long-term exclusion. When we agree to play, we not only hide and cast doubt upon our experiences, we're willingly participating in the invalidation of ourselves. When you're emulating others, you are invalidating yourself, right? And there is an experimentation that has to go along with emulating others and figuring out who you are, because that's going to be the reference. However, when you're walking around pretending to be a white man,
that's not your authentic self.
You're invalidating your experience as a woman, right? So to be true to yourself, and I think that's where that authenticity, I can always have trouble with that word, authenticity comes from, right? And really just not invalidating yourself as somebody else.
Yes.
Getting
true to yourself.
Yeah. And getting to find a profession where you get to be yourself. That's one of the things I love about working in AV, right? I'm a little quirky. It's okay.
So that was our recap of the episode 2. And if you have any questions, if you're, because we're here for community, if you have any questions about how to handle a situation, especially if you need to say it anonymously, please submit your question to If You Ask Us. And there you have it, recap of episode 2. We're Carol and Caroline, aka Team CNC, bringing you episode recaps.
And the best business resources for women in WAVIT. Please subscribe to the WAVIT podcast so you don't miss a thing on many channels, Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Music, etc. Bye.